So you're planning to visit South Italy this year. Well, I have to congratulate you on your choice. It's a very good one. But there are some things that you need to know. I've been living in South Italy for 5 years, and honestly, some of the things that I'm about to talk about in this video, I didn't do when I first visited Italy way back in 2017, and I kind of wish I had. So let's get into the video. I'm going to share with you 14 things that I really recommend that you do if you're planning to visit South Italy this year, and make sure you stay right to the very end, because I think each and every single one of these points will enhance your holiday to a T. The first thing I would do would be to avoid the month of August. Now, August in Italy is pretty much a dead month because it is when the Italians will take their annual holiday. So what that means for you as a tourist is that you may very well find local shops, businesses, restaurants, bars closed at certain points during the month of August, and especially over what is known as the Ferragosto celebration, which is a national holiday here in Italy. So it may well affect or limit your ability to have a really authentic experience. Secondly, what it means for you as a tourist is that you will find accommodation prices are super high during that time. It is a peak holiday month, even for Italians. So you can expect to pay more for accommodation in that month compared to other times of the year. You can also expect to find beaches and lidos extremely busy during that time. Something to note about lidos, in fact, I've recorded a video up here that you should watch with some beach tips. But something to note about lidos is that a lot of them operate with season ticket holders. So what that means is Italian families will book a season ticket for a bed and an umbrella, which essentially means that they will have a part of the Lido just for the season ticket holders and then the rest for day guests. But it can mean that availability is limited. So you may well have to book in advance for a bed if the Lido allows it, but it's definitely something that you need to be prepared for because the crowds at that time are pretty ridiculous. And also another reason why I don't think August is good for you as a tourist is that it's just really, really hot. Now I get it, like I'm from the UK, trust me, like I understand you just want to experience some sun on your skin. But something you need to know is that if you want to have more of a city break and you want to go and explore all of the monuments and the famous ruins and landmarks, it can be pretty intense and almost unbearable in the height of the afternoon sun to go and do this, particularly if you want to go somewhere without any real shade, such as Pompeii, for example. So these are really important factors that you need to consider if this is the kind of season that you're wanting to visit Italy, because I don't think August is the best month, whether you're going to the north of Italy or to the south of Italy. And I think you can have a much better experience just before or just after that time. My second tip for you would be to explore lesser known cities and towns. Now, I often use the Amalfi as an example because for 4 years I lived with the Amalfi Coast on my doorstep. I know, very lucky girl. But essentially I lived in a beautiful city called Salerno, which isn't very well known, and it's certainly not like a tourist destination in the same way that Ravello or Sorrento is, for example. But if you know your stuff, which if you've been watching my channel for a while, you too know, it is one of the best places to base yourself if you plan to visit the Amalfi. I filmed a video up here, which I recommend you watch, which explains a little bit about why I don't think the Amalfi is the best place to stay. But in a nutshell for this video, you will pay a lot of money to say that you have stayed along the Amalfi Coast, but also, in my opinion, you will not have as much of an authentic experience. Salerno is a real city. It is perfect and imperfect. It has shops, it has local restaurants, it has a real Italian authentic vibe, which in some parts of the Amalfi is lost because you are very much in a tourist bubble. So if having an authentic experience is important to you, really try and explore neighbouring towns and cities to the initial place that you are interested in. Now, if, for example, using the Amalfi as a case study, you were really, really keen on saying that you have stayed along the Amalfi Coast, then you might consider Vietri Sul Mare, which is one of the first Amalfi coastal towns just outside of Salerno, and is not as busy a destination as, say, Ravello or Sorrento, but is equally as beautiful and easily accessible to the rest of the Amalfi Coast. So do your homework, do your research, find somewhere that is just as beautiful to stay and may give you other possibilities to visit different parts of Italy, which, for example, if you stay along the Amalfi, you're pretty much stuck along the Amalfi Coast because there aren't any train stations outside of Vietri. So you kind of need to do your homework a little bit, and I really recommend exploring some lesser known towns and choosing to stay there instead. The third thing you need to do is to prepare yourself for hidden costs. Now, these take many shapes and forms here in Italy, but firstly we will begin with the tourist tax. Now, if you don't know, this is a tax that is imposed by each municipality and is applicable in whatever type of accommodation you choose to stay in, whether that be a hotel, Airbnb, glamping site. Wherever you are staying, you have to pay this tourist tax. It is a per day, per person charge, and the amount you pay is dependent on where in Italy you are staying and how long your stay is going to be for. Now, you don't need to worry about trying to work this out for yourself. Your accommodation provider will manage the payment for you, so they will provide you with the details of what you need to pay. But it is something that you need to consider because it is in addition to what you will pay your accommodation provider, because they don't keep this money. They have to give it to the municipality. So it is something that you need to factor into your holiday budget. The money itself is actually reinvested into local tourist attractions and to ensure that tourists have a much better experience in their town or city. So, it is used in good ways. Hopefully. There's always a bit of a murky area as to where the money disappears to here in Italy, but the intention is good. But that aside, it's something you need to pay attention to. Secondly, you need to pay attention to the coperto, which I've spoken about before in other videos, which is the per person cover charge that you have to pay for table service at most restaurants and bars. The amount varies depending on where you are, but essentially you can expect to pay no less than €1.50 to €2 per person on top of your bill. So these are some charges that you need to pay attention to, and just be aware of any other local charges there may be aware of parking costs, be aware of the cost of Lidos, other little aspects of your experience that you're going to be having. Just pay attention to how much it's going to be, because sometimes there are extra costs that you maybe didn't really consider before booking your holiday that I recommend you investigate before you arrive. Okay, fourthly, I recommend that you bring a currency card with you to Italy. Now, the currency card that I have been using for around 3 years now is Wise. It is this lovely card right here. And I really like Wise because you have an app which enables you to real-time check your balance, to add money to your card, to freeze your card if you were to lose it, and to generally keep control of what you're spending and see the actual conversion rates that are applied to every purchase. The other good thing is that you can also have a digital version of your card, so you can make the most of services like Apple Pay, for example, but it's just a really convenient way to travel. I don't recommend traveling to Italy with your actual everyday bank card for 2 reasons. Firstly, for the potential super high currency conversion rates, something that Wise does its best to cap, so that's another reason why I like it. And secondly, just for your own security, because if you were to lose your bank card, God forbid, here in Italy, I cannot imagine more of a nightmare experience trying to deal with that in a foreign country. So really and truly invest in a currency card, and it's something that can help you to have a much more relaxing experience. But currency card aside, always remember to take a little bit of cash around with you as well, because although 99.9% of shops and businesses will accept card payments, you will come across the small independent shop or market stall that doesn't. And you want to have the flexibility to buy what you like. So make sure you've always got some money on you just in case. If you're interested to know more about Wise, I will put a link below in the show notes, but I'm a very fussy customer and trust me, I highly recommend them, so go check them out. Okay, number 5, Dress appropriately. I have fallen victim to this before, and oh my goodness, I've not been able to enter some really beautiful churches as a result. So learn from my mistakes. Dress appropriately here in Italy, especially if you want to visit churches and religious buildings. In the height of summer, there are still dress codes that are applied to these particular places. So make sure that you pack a cotton wrap that you can put around yourself in order to gain entry to these buildings. You will find some churches will sell like plastic or disposable wraps that you can put around yourself, but save yourself some money and bring your own. And it also means that you are still in your light clothes for the rest of the day once you leave the church. The churches here in Italy are fabulous, and I highly recommend visiting them if you can. Not only will you see some of the most incredible, breathtaking interiors that you've probably ever seen in your life, but also they are beautiful sanctuaries from the heat of the beating summer sun. So make sure you take advantage of visiting them. Some are free, some you just have to pay a very small donation to enter, but they're definitely worth your time. Another thing you need to pay attention to are any dress codes adopted by restaurants or bars. Now, I don't come across a lot of these places, but some high-end restaurants and bars will adopt a smart casual dress code. Make sure you adhere to it, because you may very well be denied entry if you don't. And last but not least, if you are having a beach day and you decide to venture into the town centre afterwards, please do not venture into the town centre wrapped in a sarong with your bikini underneath with flip-flops. In some Italian towns and cities, this will now result in a fine if you choose to wear beachwear in the main city centre itself. So consider bringing some shorts, t-shirts, something that you can change into to be able to go out in the centre later. It really pays to know this before you come here so that you don't have your experience ruined because you weren't prepared. Next, I would book train tickets online, and if I were making longer train trips, I would book them in advance too. Now, the reason I really recommend booking your train tickets online is because the Train Italia website is really intuitive, it's very easy to use. You can also translate it into a number of different languages as well. And it means you can take your time. You can take your time with choosing the train that you want to take, with making your payment, and just with the whole experience. When you use the self-service ticket machines at a train station, although you can translate and you can, navigate your way around fairly easily, you feel the pressure when you have a long queue behind you full of tut-in people, and if you are in a hurry to get your train. So in my opinion, it's much better to book online in the comfort of your home or hotel and be prepared in that way. And another bonus of booking online is that you don't have to remember to validate your train ticket, which if you buy a ticket from one of the self-service ticket machines or from the ticket office, you need to do, otherwise you risk a fine. You don't have that stress when you've booked your ticket online, because all you have to do is show your QR code to the ticket inspector. So I highly recommend booking online. It's a much more convenient experience. If you plan to take some longer train journeys during your stay here in Italy, then I recommend booking your tickets as far in advance as possible. Regional train tickets are fixed, which means they stay the same price pretty much year round. But when it comes to longer distances, that is when the prices can fluctuate. And if you're clever and you book your train tickets like a couple of months in advance, if you're really certain that you want to go somewhere, for example, you could find yourself bagging a very good deal compared to if you were to book closer to your travel date. An example for me, when I moved to Palermo last year, I came by train and I booked my tickets a couple of months in advance, and I managed to bag a ticket from Salerno to Palermo, which is around, I don't remember now, like maybe 5 or 6 hour train journey, and I bagged it for like 13 euros, something really inexpensive. But if I had waited later, I could easily have paid 60, 70 or even 80 euro for the same trip. So do your research, plan in advance, particularly for longer train journeys. Okay, number 7, be mindful of your belongings, please. The amount of tourists I see leaving really expensive phones, camera equipment, bags, just laying around. Italy is beautiful, but of course it's not a perfect country. Crime does exist here. Pickpocketing, thefts, they exist here, particularly in tourist destinations. destinations. So please look after your stuff. Don't leave your brain at home. Okay, tip number 8, avoid eating at typical tourist restaurants. I hate to say it, but as a tourist, you are a walking banknote. And unfortunately, along typical tourist places, you will find restaurants that will rip you off and will charge you a lot of money for what is essentially a very simple dish. I've seen it myself here in Palermo, and this is why I really encourage you to venture off the beaten track a little bit. Always be street savvy, have street awareness. I'm not telling you that every part of Italy is safe, but if you were to take another street instead of the main drag, for example, you may very well come across a local restaurant where the locals themselves go, where you can buy something with genuine, authentic prices and not inflated prices just because you're a tourist, okay? I'm all for supporting businesses, but I don't agree with ripping off tourists just because you've chosen to come here on holiday. Okay, try to learn some basic expressions. Even if you just learn how to greet people, how to say please and thank you, how to ask for help, it will really enhance your experience and will be really appreciated as well by Italian people. So do your best to learn some basic expressions, Duolingo, buying a phrase book, looking on the internet. There are lots of different resources you can use, even YouTube videos or social media platforms if you have them. But definitely do your best to learn the basic expressions so that you can at least communicate in a really polite way if you need to. Okay, you need to embrace where you are. Italy is not the perfect fairy tale country that we have all been led to believe by many a book and film. Imperfection exists here, dirty streets exist here, rude people exist here. So just embrace where you are. Italy is like any other country around the world. It has its good points and it has its bad points. So just enjoy where you are, embrace it, accept it for what it is, and don't place such a high expectation on a country which unfortunately has been portrayed as being the perfect place on earth, because no such place exists, not even your own country. If you plan to take back a slice of Italy to your home country and you want to buy some food, do it at the supermarket and not at the airport shop. I think it's common knowledge that airport shops are ridiculously overpriced, but if you plan to bring back some dried food like pasta, biscuits, or some other type of food that isn't subject to restrictions, then I really recommend buying it from a supermarket. Not only will you have a much wider choice than what is available at the airport shop, but you're also going to pay genuine prices, and that goes a long way. Consider when I recently flew from the airport here in Palermo, the airport shop was selling bags of pasta for like €6. Like, it's crazy. Yes, it was a very incredible brand, but you can buy an equally impressive brand of pasta for like €1 if you know where to go. So really and truly do your homework. Don't be ripped off at the airport shop. This is for all the smokers. I am not one, but I do know that this is a problem. If you smoke, buy your cigarettes during the day, because when the tobacco shops close, often evening, you are only able to purchase cigarettes from a machine, a vending machine outside, but it requires you to have an Italian form of ID to be able to purchase cigarettes. So to avoid yourself being caught out, please make sure that you have stocked up on cigarettes during the day to avoid this problem. If you are here on the first weekend of the month, you may have heard me talk about this before, but on the first Sunday of every month, across many different towns and cities around Italy, many museums, galleries, villas throw open their doors free of charge for people to come and visit. It's a great way to experience Italian culture, and it doesn't cost you €1, so make the most of it if you are here at that time of the month. And I would also say that if you are visiting Italy, you need to do your best to experience a local festival or religious event or something that is really authentic to that town or city. And the best way you can go about finding if there is something happening at the time when you are here is by researching local newspapers online. So for example, Salerno, there was La Città. Here in Palermo, you have Palermo Today. You have, I don't know if there was Salerno Today. I think there is. I'll come back to you on that. But essentially, you can find these newspapers online. They all have Facebook pages, they all have websites, and you can find out what events are happening in the town or city that you're staying at whilst you're here. Really do your best to experience some of these events, because tourists don't often know about them, and they really give you a glimpse into the heart and soul of this magnificent country.